So our final speaker is Lynzie Kent, and she is the founder and creative director at Love by Lynzie, among many other things. But here are 3 things that none of you probably know about Lynzie. So Lynzie actually dropped out of university twice. Her career in events began when her 10th grade boyfriend crashed her dad's car. She's going to tell us a little bit about that. And she's currently doing a personal project called 365 of Nothing New. Sorry, hashtag 365 of Nothing New. And she's not buying any new clothing for an entire year. Very cool. Lynzie, come on up here and share your fuck up.
Do you have the remote?
Hello, hi. So first I'm going to say that I too am really humbled to be here and to be sharing my story on this stage. I'm also super fucking nervous. So bear with me, because when I'm nervous, I don't say the things that I want to say, which is why I have this trusty iPad. So who am I? Well, first of all, I'm a mother. I run in a wedding and event planning agency. I'm a singer, I'm a TV host, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm a regular girl who is really bad at layouts. I used Paint to make that. Paint, yep. You can still download that online. So I've been an entrepreneur since 2011, but I was finally able to quit my day job and work on Love by Lynzie and Electric Blonde full-time by 2013. And at the time, I wasn't making very much money at all, but I had a steady clientele, so I was brave enough to step out and take a chance on being fully self-employed. But I had no business training. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I needed processes. I needed refinement. And I had zero work-life balance. So I suffered from something that I call superwoman syndrome. I'm basically Batman. So this is me during the day. Actually, that's the same blazer I'm wearing tonight. And this is 2014. So that's me. And so by day, I'm a planner, and by night, look, I'm a lead singer of the band. I just put a blazer on in the morning. What was my life like back then? Well, I was everything to everyone at all times, and for a while, that served me really well. I had one assistant, I had a couple interns, and I had a husband who put up with a lot of shit. But to give you the sense of what my work week was like, I'd work about 40, 50 hours a week in my home office. At night, I'd go to band rehearsals or showcases. I'd go to networking events. And then on weekends, I would run 1 to 2 weddings. I'd be at a wedding for about 10 to 12 hours a day. At 7 o'clock, I'd leave that wedding with my assistant there, and I'd go get on stage with my band and sing with my band until 2 in the morning. The next day, I would either do that again or have about a day to reset. So what went wrong? Well, that's me right there. And I think it's pretty obvious what went wrong. So I got pregnant in 2015, and we weren't really trying to get pregnant, but there's a thing called, sex. And it happens if you're not careful. So my husband and I got pregnant, and, I've always been the kind of person that says just throw yourself into it, throw yourself into the deep end and figure it out later. So that's what I did with my pregnancy. I wasn't really sure if I was happy or not, but my initial instinct was, holy shit, I better shoot new promo pictures for the band before I start showing. I wasn't like, sweet, I'm gonna have a baby. And so thinking back to that, it's kind of a sad moment for me because I didn't really celebrate that moment. I just thought about, what it meant for my career. And when Archie's my son, when he came along, I was so much more worried about the part of my identity that I was going to lose than the parts that I would gain. I don't think I go to the next slide yet. No, I don't. Sorry. So I ignored people's advice. When I got pregnant, everybody was like, your business isn't going to sustain itself the way that it is. You're going to need to take a break. You're going to need to take care of yourself. And I completely didn't listen to that. I thought I could remain being superwoman. I thought that I could buck the trend, that I could, write new rules and save the world and go back to a 40-hour work week and give my baby an unlimited supply of milk and all the love in the world all at the same time. But I was sorely mistaken. This is me, 37 weeks pregnant, and that's the last gig I sang before I had a baby. So Archie was born in July of 2015, and I often joke that so was I. His entrance into my life completely rocked my world, but I blindly continued with my plan. I was like a train barreling toward my goals, and 2 weeks after he was born, I was back on stage with my band. I had to leave that gig that night about an hour early because TMI, but I just want to get really real, I was still bleeding from the birth of my child, but I didn't see that as a problem, right? So 1 month after his birth, I decided to do something even cooler. I signed on to host a television show and film an entire season of a TV show. So what did that mean? I'd go to set. I'd film for 12 to 13 hours straight. I brought my baby with me with a caregiver. I breastfed him when I had time. He was stuck in these tiny rooms with like whoever I brought with me for that entire time because we were filming in people's homes. It wasn't a good look. And then, aside from that, during the day or when I wasn't filming, I was still running 2 companies, working when he was napping, working until 2 a.m. when he was sleeping if he slept. And same thing, on weekends we'd take him to weddings, we'd take him to corporate events. My husband would come and sit in rooms just waiting for me to come in and feed him. And you know what? At first it was manageable because they sleep a lot at the beginning. It was chaos, but I was surviving. But at 9 months old, Archie weaned from breastfeeding, and I crashed really hard. I have a lot of things in my hands here. So Archie was on the move. I had part-time help, but it wasn't enough. And because of the sleep deprivation, the poor nutrition, the zero self-care, I inevitably developed crippling postpartum anxiety. I also developed something pretty frightening called intrusive thoughts, which would take over my mind for days on end. If anyone out there is a mom who's experienced that before, people don't really talk about that. And my sense of linear thinking was gone. So essentially, I was just in the space of constant confusion, and it was a really scary place to be. Because of this, I missed meetings, I lost clients, I forgot details. One time at a wedding, I called the bride and groom the wrong name on the mic. That's pretty bad, right? At the lowest point for me, it was in the winter of 2016. I turned to my husband in the kitchen and I said flat out, if this is my life now, I don't want to live it anymore. And that's a difficult thing for me still to say out loud. Bear with me. Sorry. So, thank you. Let's break that with this. Look, Kim Kardashian's life is so hard. But it's true. I think, I don't share this story for pity at all. I share this story because it's extremely common. It's extremely common. Women are expected to bear children and grow their careers at the exact same time in their life. And I wanted kids, right? And I wanted a career. So, okay, what do? You just do both and you figure it out. But I also want to say that this is not just applicable. My story is not just applicable to moms or parents. It's also applicable to anyone who's going through a really personal challenge in their life that rocks them and makes them feel like they can't emotionally handle what's going on in their personal life. So how are they supposed to handle what's going on in their professional life? So what did I do? Well, first, I saw my doctor. I took some medication. I joined a mom group, which I said I would never do, but it's awesome. I made really consistent appointments with my therapist, which I still do. But after all that, the most important thing I did was I forgave myself. I forgave myself for, the self-doubt and the guilt and the sort of hating myself for wanting two things simultaneously. And then I began empowering myself with choices that would lead me to the life of freedom that I so desperately wanted. So, these are my new rules. So the first thing I did was I gave myself permission to want and love my children and simultaneously want and love my work. They're both awesome, and it's cool to do both. The second thing I did was I became relentless in the pursuit of the right people for my business. The ones who weren't serving the big picture, I let go of immediately, and that was hard. And then I doubled down and I found the exact right people to work with me and help me build what was in my mind. The third thing I did, which I think was the hardest, and it's hardest for a lot of people who are self-employed, but I learned over to give control. And I think that this is a crucial step. And there are so many actionable ways that you can do that. And I think the problem with learning over to give control is that people think, how am I ever going to get what's out of my head into somebody else's head and make sure that they're doing it right? And there are really actionable ways that you can do that. Oh, Linz. Oh. Sorry. And the final one is a big one, and it's the most important step. So in my business, I shifted my mindset to talking about the company from I to we. And for a really small business, that's a big step to take, and probably not one that people interact with a lot, right? Because by the time you're interacting with a business, they're already at the we stage. But when you move to that we stage, it just creates the idea in yourself and in others and in potential clients that it's more than just you. And there's a lot of power in that. It means it gives you the opportunity to grow, and it sets you personally apart from the things that you do day to day. Because I do need to remind myself on a continual basis that it is just my work. Oh, I just did it again. Oh my God. Thank you. You're so kind. Okay, so these 4 rules really have changed my life. They've changed my life because every time that something bad happens or something frustrating happens, they help me gain perspective again. They help me understand that it is just work, and returning to those things really is it is my goalposts every single time. So this is Lewis, and in November of 2018, I had my second baby. That's Lewis, and he was born at home to a really peaceful and joyful mom, me. And it was a totally different experience. And I told myself that the second time that I had a baby, that I was gonna do it different. So the moment that I knew that I was pregnant with Lewis, I invested in a consultant. I worked really hard on processes and systems that would allow my business to scale and that would allow me to step away from the business and take a real maternity leave. This is me and my family. And in January, we boarded a plane and we went to Australia for 6 months. And that was my maternity leave. I was so dedicated to walking away for a minute that I put a 13-hour time boundary between myself and my business. And we lived with family, and we lived near the beach, and we ate great food, and I worked less than 5 hours a week, which was so cool. So using these rules and creating this mat leave process, it's really, it's changed my business So the biggest thing that it's changed for me is that I've realized that the best way to do this is to build an incredible community of people around you. And when you give them the opportunity to level up and step up, they do it. And that's actually the most amazing thing that's happened to me through this entire process, is that I found a team and I found a community of people that want to see me succeed, but also that want to succeed with me, which I think is the most valuable thing that I've learned. And so the last thing I'll say is that Superman and Superwoman, they're pretty cool, but they're by themselves. And if you watch any of those superhero movies, which I don't, or even Fast and the Furious, to be honest, they're in a group, right? Like the X-Men, the Avengers, they seem like they're having so much more fun. So I realized that I'm cool with not being Superwoman. I want to be like an Avenger. Is that a thing? I don't even know. But I want to be in a superhero group, right? So thank you so much for listening today.
Lynzie, thank you so much for sharing your story. That was so
Thank you.
powerful, and really congratulations on everything that you've built and the amazing family life as well. And I think you said this in your talk, like this talk was not applicable to just moms. It's really like to anybody, especially entrepreneurs. Maybe like just realizing when it's time to take a leave from something. It doesn't have to be a mat leave. Maybe it's just a few months away from your business to really see it in a fresh perspective. So thank you again for sharing that. And let's open it up to some Q&A.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry. Thanks. Thank you for your story. That really resonated with me. My question that I'm going to ask is, so my wife and I had our first child last year, and we moved countries, and it's been a bit of a wild ride the last few years. And she is currently in the middle of taking her bar exams to transfer her law degree, a lot of stuff.
Wow.
How can I, as a husband, help her? Because what you've been through.
Yeah, thank you for that incredible question. So I think mostly there's an innate feeling as a new mom, even if you have a wonderful partner who is a 50% parent, which by asking that question, I'm assuming I just know you are. I think that as a new mom, there's this real sense that no matter what, you have to be the primary parent. It's a society-driven thing that still exists, and it's also like a physical thing that moms just have. So I think giving her the time and space to just have a quiet mind is probably one of the things that a new mom who's also working really needs. She needs the space to be able to clear her head and literally talk to no one. And for her, that's going to mean something. For me, it's like sitting in my closet in a dark room. For her, it might be like having a bath or like getting her nails done. But literally, the chatter is constant. And so my recommendation would be try every day if you can, or a couple times a week, to just give her an hour alone by herself and just don't talk to her.
That's funny. Yes.
It's more of there we go. More of an onboarding and offloading. You had said like bringing on a team and getting things out of your head and into someone else's head. You said it's doable.
Yeah.
I'm literally texting with people right now. How do I make it happen?
Okay, so for me, what I think helped the most was before I even created a process handbook or anything like that, I did a brain dump of every single category in my company, and literally that was like 20 spreadsheets long, right? And I went through and I started highlighting all of the things that repeated in any way or anything that was teachable. And I have this real concept around teachables, and I think that when you are able to take all of those teachables out of that spreadsheet, there's going to be some things that are not, and those are the things that you should spend like 90% of your time doing, right? Because that's the secret sauce. But like all of the teachables should be something that can be formatted and processed in a way that can be communicated very clearly through just like simple process manuals. And it takes a lot of time and it takes hours and hours of work, but it's worth it. And I bet if you really took the time, you might have already done a lot of this work, but if you take the time to do that, I think you'll find that so much of what you do on a day-to-day repeats. And if you find the right person, you can totally teach them how to do that. We can talk more after. No? All good? Cool? Yeah?
Your television series, did you pitch the idea on that, or did they find you? And are you still doing it now?
So the first one I did, they found me through Instagram. The second one I did, I pitched through that. It's an interesting experience to make television, but it's fun. And Instagram is truly a blessing. It opens up a world of opportunities.
Cool. Authentic. So I just wanted to say
My
that
pleasure.
I'm a dog mom, so I can't relate in that aspect. But you just standing up there, being authentic, being who you are, and doing your thing, embrace it. And I think you were great. So thank you.
Thanks. That's so sweet. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so we have one last question over there.
Not saying this is happening to myself or just someone I know, but say you see someone that's
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. Say you see someone being overworked, or just, getting into bad habits. What can you do to, help them get kind of away from that?
So my perspective here is that it's really important. Do you care about this person, I assume? Yes. So my perspective is pretty simple. You can't force anyone to tell you something they don't want to tell you, and you can't solve that person's problem. But what you can do is approach the situation from a place of empathy and just hold space for that person. And the best way to do that is to listen and offer. So if someone needs help, I think innately we know when we need help, but we don't always say it. I think there are lifelines that people throw out that you can grasp onto. So, they come in super late for work and they're frazzled. Ask them, hey, what'd you do last night? What are you dealing with this morning? Do you need someone to talk to? I'm here to talk to you about that. But you can't force and you can't solve their problems. You just have to be a constant, almost like lighthouse that is holding a space for them to walk into if they so choose.
Thank you so much again, Lynzie. That was amazing and really great questions, everybody. Thank you so much for really thinking deeply about those stories and asking really curious questions.